First tonight, an anti-slavery charity has been embedded in an East Midlands police team to tackle human trafficking. Justice and Care supports victims who have been forced to work, from the sex trade to county lines drugs gangs. They're also training police officers and helping detectives gather evidence. This exclusive report from our social affairs correspondent, Jeremy Ball.
The crime that's hidden in plain sight, from hand car washes to factories, profiting from the misery of victims who are controlled by threats or debts.
Hello, it's police.
Tackling modern slavery has become a growing priority for the police, but victims are often too terrified to give evidence. So now a so-called victim navigator is joining these police raids to help build trust.
Some people think that it's okay to make people work for nothing.
The charity Justice and Care has been embedded in the East Midlands Special Operations Unit to help their detectives build a case and to help build trust too.
It's quite scary when the police come bashing through the door, all in their sort of gear and sort of doing the police side of things. If you're a victim, you're already completely traumatised. What we want to achieve is criminals convicted. So to have a navigator along to act as that bridge and that support right from that very first point builds that trust.
Another crime they've uncovered here in the East Midlands is domestic servitude. That made headlines when Mo Farah gave a shocking account of how he'd been a victim too. He was trafficked to work for a family when he was only 9 years old.
My job was to look after those kids, shower them, cook for them, clean for them. And she said, if you ever want to see your family again, don't say anything. If you say anything, they will take you away.
The East Midlands Victim Navigator has also been supporting people who are forced to work for drugs gangs, addicts whose homes have been taken over, or children used as runners. Other victims are foreign women who've been forced to work in the sex trade.
Girls have been brought into the country, for example, saying that they're coming for cleaning work or something like that in the hotel industry, where actually when they get here, they're made to go and work in brothels, kept awake during the day by being given drugs and made to service 10, 15 clients. What shocks me most is the fact that it's humanity. It's the fact that people do this to other people.
Justice and Care is already supporting 14 victims of modern slavery here in the East Midlands, and the charity's now recruiting a second victim navigator here.
Well, Jeremy Ball's out in Nottingham for us tonight. Jeremy, an evening to you. Just how unusual is it then for a charity worker like this to be embedded with the police force?
Well, and they reckon this Victim Navigator scheme is the only one of its kind. The charity's already working with a handful of other police forces, and here in the East Midlands they say it's already prompted a number of prosecutions. These victims get support as they go through the court process, and if they've been trafficked from overseas they can even get a new start back home. In fact, one East Midlands victim is already being supported back in Romania, and the police tell me this really helps them as well, because what it does is free them up to work on investigations.
You particular have reported a lot on modern slavery. Just how common is it?
It's a lot more common than we're seeing, probably. The problem is that the cases they're finding are likely to be the tip of the iceberg. So here in Nottingham, for instance, they've got a new enforcement team. Now that is currently finding around 21 cases every month of modern slavery or exploitation. And they say a lot of those cases are what's known as cuckooing, where drug gangs take over people's homes, where they'll often target either a customer or someone with mental health problems. And that Nottingham team say they've actually helped at least one of those victims to be moved to a safe house and to get help with their addiction.
And who else? What other kind of people are targeted?
It's anybody who's vulnerable, really, and so people who are homeless get targeted. Foreign nationals without the right to work here often get targeted, and that's because they can't complain, of course. And we've heard a lot in the last week, a lot of talk about Albanians who say they're victims of modern slavery, and the authorities, of course, are in a difficult position. They have to decide if that's genuine or if it's simply an excuse to stay here. And What these new victim navigators say is that they can help the police with this because they've got all the expertise and the background to decide whether somebody really is likely to be a modern slave or whether they're likely to be an economic migrant.
OK, Jeremy, we'll leave it there for now. Thanks very much indeed.